I always thought I had a perfect life. I had a decent job, a cozy little house in a quiet neighborhood, and a beautiful wife, Emily, whom I loved dearly. We were married for 5 years, and in those years I believed we built a solid partnership. Emily worked as an immigration lawyer, passionate about defending the rights of those who sought refuge in the country. I admired her dedication, even if it meant she sometimes worked late into the night. But looking back, I can see the cracks in our seemingly perfect life. Things started to change about 6 months ago. Emily began spending more time at the office. At first, I understood. After all, immigration cases can be intense. But as weeks turned into months, her late nights became more frequent. She claimed it was because of a big case she was handling, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. There were subtle changes in her behavior. She became more irritable, short with me over the smallest things, and her phone notifications seemed to have multiplied overnight. I brushed it off as stress from work. One evening, as I was cleaning up after dinner, I noticed her phone buzzing on the kitchen counter. It was an unrecognized number, and I felt a twinge of curiosity. I picked it up, intending to hand it to her, but before I could, a message popped up that made my stomach drop. "Can't wait to see you tonight. You know how much I miss you." The sender was someone named Mark, the director of her legal defense team. Panic coursed through me as I set the phone down and tried to act casual as Emily came into the kitchen. "Who were you texting?" I asked, watching her reaction intently. "Oh, just work stuff," she replied, brushing it off with a wave of her hand. I wanted to believe her, but the knot in my stomach tightened. That night I tossed and turned in bed, replaying the message in my mind. Who was this Mark? Why was he texting her like that? I decided to dig deeper. Over the next few days I noticed more signs. She was dressing up more for work, her perfume lingered stronger than before, and she had started to leave the house with a rush, often claiming she had an early meeting. The breaking point came one Friday night when I decided to take a chance and follow her. She had left earlier, saying there was a last-minute client meeting. I waited 2 hours before deciding to track her down. I drove to the law office, half expecting to find her working late, but as I pulled into the parking lot, I saw her car parked next to a sleek black sedan. My heart raced as I got out of my car, creeping toward the entrance. Peering through the glass doors, I froze. There was Emily laughing and leaning close to Mark. My world shattered in that moment. I watched as they shared a kiss that was far too intimate, too filled with passion to be anything but what it looked like, infidelity. I felt a whirlwind of emotions, anger, betrayal, and a deep sense of loss. I didn't confront them that night. Instead, I turned away, my heart heavy with the weight of what I had just witnessed. I drove home, my mind racing. I couldn't wrap my head around how this could happen, how I had missed the signs. Once I got home, I felt like a ghost in my own house. I wandered through the empty rooms, memories of our happy moments flashing before my eyes. I wanted to scream, to punch a wall, to do anything to release the torrent of emotions swirling within me. But the sadness pressed down like a lead weight. The confrontation needed to happen, and it would be explosive. I spent the entire weekend contemplating how to approach it. I wanted answers, but part of me feared what those answers might entail. Emily would be home Sunday evening, and I knew that was when I would confront her. The moment she walked through the door, I could sense something different about her. There was a subtle confidence, perhaps even a smugness, that infuriated me. She greeted me with a smile, completely unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. "Hey babe, how was your weekend?" she asked, tossing her bag onto the couch. I looked at her, my heart racing, and the words tumbled out. "We need to talk." Her smile faltered, and I could see the realization dawn on her face. This was going to be a conversation neither of us would forget. The tension in the room thickened. Like a fog, I watched Emily's expression shift from casual curiosity to guarded apprehension. I could see the wheels turning in her head as she processed the gravity of my tone. Her smile faded entirely, replaced by a nervous flicker in her eyes. "What's wrong, John?" she asked, her voice steady but laced with a hint of anxiety. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "You know what's wrong, Emily. I saw you with Mark. I saw you kiss him." The air shifted as if a physical blow had landed. Her face went pale and she opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. I could almost hear the gears turning in her mind, searching for a plausible excuse, a way to twist the narrative in her favor. "John, I can explain," she finally managed, her voice faltering ever so slightly. "Explain what exactly?" I shot back, my anger bubbling to the surface. "How you've been lying to me. How you've been sneaking around behind my back." She opened her mouth again, but I wasn't having any of it. My heart raced as the floodgates opened. "You've been so distant and—" I thought it was just work stress. But now I see it was all a cover for your affair. How long has this been going on? "John, it's not what you think," she protested, her tone rising defensively. "I've been stressed about my cases. Mark he's just a friend, a mentor. It's not like that between us." "A friend?" I scoffed, anger coursing through me. "A friend who kisses you like that. A friend who sends you texts about missing you. Don't insult my intelligence, Emily." Her eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape route from this spiraling situation. "I made a mistake. It was a moment of weakness," she pleaded, desperation creeping into her voice. "You have to believe me." The flood of emotions became overwhelming. I wanted to scream, to lash out at the universe for tearing apart everything I thought was real. Instead, I felt a deep sadness settle in my chest. I thought about all the times I had supported her, all the love I had poured into our relationship, only for her to throw it away for a fleeting affair. "Do you love him?" asked, each word dragging painfully out of my mouth. "No, no, I don't love him," she insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. "It was just sex, John. I was confused and I didn't know how to handle everything. You've been so wrapped up in your own work and I felt neglected." "Neglected?" I echoed, incredulous. "Is that really your excuse? You thought cheating would solve your problems. You could have come to me." "But it wasn't just about that," she continued, her voice rising in agitation. "You don't understand what it's like. I'm under so much pressure at work, and Mark, he made me feel wanted, something I haven't felt in a long time. So, it came down to that, didn't it? Her insecurities and feelings of inadequacy had led her into the arms of another man. She was blaming me, twisting my love and support into an indictment of my character. The betrayal cut deep, and I felt a mix of anger and pity for her. "Emily, this isn't about neglect. This is about your choice," I said, my voice steadying. "You chose to betray me, that's on you." Silence stretched between us. I could see the tears welling in her eyes, but I felt no sympathy. All I could feel was the void that was left in place of our marriage. I had thought we were a team, but it seemed she had already chosen her side. "I need time to think," I finally said, the weight of my words settling over us like a shroud. I turned away from her, needing to put distance between us. I couldn't look at her, not when everything I knew had been shattered. Emily reached out, her voice trembling. "John, please don't leave me. I can fix this. I'll end things with Mark, I swear." I shook my head, my heart heavy with the reality of our situation. "You don't get to decide that. You've already made your choice, and it's not one I can overlook." With that, I stepped away, leaving her standing there in the living room. The walls felt like they were closing in, suffocating me with the weight of betrayal. I walked out into the cool night air, my mind racing. I felt a storm brewing inside me, a mix of anger, sadness, and a burning desire for revenge. I let the cool air hit my face as I attempted to calm the maelstrom within. I couldn't let this go unanswered. Emily had crossed a line, and I was filled with an overwhelming urge to make her understand the consequences of her actions. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about justice. The cool night air did little to calm the storm brewing inside me. As I stepped outside, the concrete of the driveway felt solid beneath my feet, grounding me in reality. I needed a plan. Revenge wasn't just about hurting Emily. It was about making her comprehend the depth of her betrayal. I couldn't simply allow her to sweep this under the rug and act as if nothing happened. She needed to feel the weight of what she had done. In the days that followed our confrontation, I found myself consumed by thoughts of revenge. My mind raced as I replayed the events over and over. I would casually drop hints about my newfound knowledge until she was on the edge of her seat, not knowing what I had planned. I wanted to catch her off guard, to see the realization wash over her face that her actions had consequences. I knew Emily's routine well. She would be working late most nights, and her phone would be buzzing with messages from Mark. I decided to turn her own tactics against her. I could use her phone against her. I didn't want to break any laws, but I could create a situation where she'd be forced to confront the consequences of her actions. I started by researching phone monitoring apps online. There were plenty of options, and I settled on one that seemed relatively innocuous, allowing me to track texts and calls without arousing suspicion. I knew it was wrong, but this wasn't about morality. It was about justice. I needed to show her just how much she had crossed the line. I waited until the weekend to put my plan into action. Saturday morning, as Emily slept, I quietly took her phone from the nightstand. She was in a deep sleep, her face peaceful, unaware of how twisted our reality had become. I quickly downloaded the app and set it up. It felt like I was crossing a moral boundary, but in my mind, I justified it as a necessary evil. Once I had everything in place, I felt a mix of triumph and dread. I had access to her conversations with Mark, and I'd be able to see just how deep this betrayal went. I could hardly wait for the truth to unfold before me. That evening, I settled in with a drink and waited for the notifications to pour in. My heart raced each time my phone buzzed. I was stepping into a world of secrets and lies, and I had to remind myself that this was for my peace of mind. What I discovered was a whirlwind of emotions. The texts ranged from casual check-ins to more intimate exchanges that made my stomach churn. "I can't stop thinking about our last night together," one message read. Another said, "You're everything I've ever wanted." I felt each word like a knife to my heart, but I also felt a dark satisfaction. This was the ammunition I needed. My mind raced with thoughts of how I would confront her with this evidence. I envisioned the scene, her defensiveness, the realization dawning on her face as she grasped the extent of her betrayal. It kept me awake at night, imagining the look in her eyes when she realized she had been caught. I wanted her to sweat, to feel the same panic I had felt when I first discovered her with Mark. I decided to invite a couple of friends over for drinks that next Friday night. I needed to create an atmosphere of normalcy, to keep Emily off balance and unaware of my intentions. The plan was to take her out of her comfort zone, to make her feel a slight unease without revealing why. As my friends arrived, I put on a playful facade, laughing and joking as if everything was perfectly fine. Emily joined us, sipping her wine and engaging in small talk, unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. I could feel the tension in the air, my mind racing with the anticipation of what was to come. After a few drinks, I casually brought up the topic of relationships, gauging her reaction. "You ever wonder what makes people cheat?" I asked, trying to sound nonchalant. Emily laughed a little too loudly. "I think it's all about communication. If you're not happy, you should just talk it out. Cheating is just cowardly." It was as if she had delivered the perfect line for my performance. I couldn't help but smirk. "I agree, but some people seem to think they can have their cake and eat it too," I replied, watching her closely. Her eyes flickered and I could see her processing my words. Did she think I knew? Did she suspect that I was onto her? The thrill of the chase sent adrenaline coursing through my veins. I wanted her to squirm, to wonder if her secret was safe, if I had somehow discovered the truth. As the night wore on, I became more and more convinced that I was on the right track. Emily was still distracted, but I could see her fidgeting slightly, her mind racing as she engaged in conversations with my friends. Eventually, I made my way to the bathroom, pulling out my phone to check for any new messages. As I skimmed through the texts, my heart raced. One message caught my eye. "I can't wait to see you this weekend. Just us, right?" I felt a surge of anger rise within me. This wasn't just a fling. This was a relationship built on my shattered trust. I shoved my phone back into my pocket, my resolve hardening. I wouldn't confront her tonight, that would be too easy. I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices before I revealed that I knew everything. As I walked back into the living room, I caught Emily's eye. The look on her face was a mix of guilt and defiance, a reminder of the precarious balance we were on. I couldn't wait to unleash the truth in a way that would leave her reeling. The next step was set. I would wait until she was most comfortable, and then I would strike, revealing the truth that would shatter her world just as she had shattered mine. I was ready for the final act of this twisted play, and I wouldn't back down until she understood the full extent of her betrayal. The following week dragged on as I prepared for the confrontation that would change everything. Each day felt like an eternity, and I was filled with a mix of dread and anticipation. Every little encounter with Emily became charged with unspoken words and hidden agendas. I could barely look at her without feeling the weight of betrayal pressing down on my chest. Finally, Friday arrived and my heart raced as I went through the motions of a normal day. I texted my friends confirming our plans for that evening. I was ready to unveil the truth. I envisioned the moment when I would confront Emily, the look of realization dawning on her face as I revealed what I knew. It was a twisted sense of justice that kept me moving forward. As the sun began to set, I set the stage for our evening. I arranged for a few of our close friends to come over, hoping that the presence of others would keep Emily distracted and prevent her from sensing anything amiss. I put on a cheerful demeanor as I welcomed everyone, even though my mind was racing with thoughts of the confrontation that lay ahead. Emily arrived home just as the party was getting underway. She greeted our friends with her usual charm, laughing and engaging in small talk, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. I watched her as she poured herself a glass of wine, the sound of laughter ringing in the background, and I felt a wave of bitterness wash over me. How could she act so normal after what she had done? As the night wore on, I could feel the tension building inside me, the anticipation growing with every passing moment. I knew that I would have to confront her when the crowd had thinned out and we were left alone, just the two of us. It was time for the truth to come crashing down. Around midnight, most of our friends had left, and I could feel the unease in the air as I cornered Emily in the kitchen. She was pouring herself another glass of wine, and for a moment I hesitated. What if she denied everything? What if she tried to manipulate me again? I needed to be strong. "Emily, can we talk?" I asked, my voice steady but cold. She looked up, a slight frown crossing her face. "Sure, what's up?" I clenched my fists, trying to control the anger bubbling beneath the surface. "I know about you and Mark." Her reaction was instantaneous, her expression shifting from confusion to fear in a heartbeat. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath, steadying myself for the confrontation. "I saw you with him, I saw you kiss him, I've seen the texts, don't lie to me, Emily." The color drained from her face and she set down her glass, her voice wavering as she spoke. "John, no excuses," I interrupted, my voice rising. "You chose to betray me. You chose to sleep with another man. How long has this been going on?" She faltered, searching for words but clearly struggling. "It was just a mistake, John. I didn't mean for it to happen." I was feeling lost, and Mark, he understood me in ways you didn't. A mix of anger and sadness surged within me. "So you decided to solve your problems by cheating. That's your excuse. You could have talked to me, Emily. Instead, you went to him." Tears welled up in her eyes, and for a moment I felt a flicker of sympathy, but it quickly faded. "I know I messed up," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't love him. It was just a fling, I swear. Just a fling." I repeated incredulously. "You don't think that makes it any better. You think that lessens the pain you've caused me." She opened her mouth to respond, but I wasn't interested in her empty promises or excuses. I had waited too long for this moment. "You need to understand the consequences of your actions," I said, my voice firm. "You think this is something I can just overlook, that we can just go back to how things were. That's not going to happen." In that moment, I felt a surge of power. I was finally standing up for myself, reclaiming my dignity. Emily needed to realize that her actions had repercussions. I wanted her to understand the depth of her betrayal, to feel the weight of what she had done. "John, please," she begged, tears streaming down her face. "I'll do anything to make this work. I'll end things with Mark, I promise." I shook my head, my heart hardened. "You had your chance to make things right, Emily. You chose to betray my trust. I can't just pretend this didn't happen. You've shattered our marriage." The silence that followed was deafening. We stood in the kitchen, the tension palpable as the reality of our situation settled in. I felt exhausted, drained from the emotional roller coaster, but I also felt a sense of clarity. I couldn't stay in a relationship built on lies. "John, I love you," she said, desperation creeping into her voice. I want to fix this. I'm so sorry. I took a deep breath, my resolve solidifying. Love isn't enough to fix this, Emily. Trust is what holds us together, and you've broken that bond completely. I turned away from her, needing to put distance between us. My heart raced as I considered what to do next. I had options, but I needed to be careful. I wanted to leave her with a lasting impression, a reminder of the pain she had caused. I decided it was time to reveal just how aware I really was. By the way, I've been tracking your conversations, I said, turning back to face her. I know everything about your texts, your late nights, everything. You think this is just going to blow over. You have no idea how deep this goes. The color drained from her face again, and I could see the realization hit her like a wave. She had underestimated me, and now she had to face the consequences of her actions. The tears streamed down her cheeks as she struggled to find her voice. You were spying on me. I wasn't spying, I replied, my voice cold. I was protecting myself from being blindsided again. You've already betrayed me once. I wouldn't let it happen again. Her expression changed from shock to anger, and I could see the gears turning in her mind. How could you do this to me? You have no right. I have every right, I shot back, my voice steady. You made your bed, Emily. Now you have to lie in it. You wanted to play with fire, and now you're getting burned. The confrontation had reached its climax, and I could feel the tension in the air shift. Emily's defensiveness began to crack, and I could see the realization of her own mistakes dawning on her. John, please, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I'll do better. I'll fix this. I shook my head, my heart heavy but resolute. No, you need to fix yourself first. I can't be part of your healing when you've already hurt me so deeply. I walked away from her, knowing that I had made the right choice. I would no longer be a victim of her betrayal. I would reclaim my life and take the first steps toward moving on. The road ahead would be tough, but I was ready to face it head on. I had learned the hard way that trust was fragile, and this was my chance to rebuild my life on my own terms. The days that followed the confrontation were a blur. The emotional fallout left me reeling, and I felt like a stranger in my own home. Emily was still there, but everything had changed. The love, the trust, and the intimacy we had shared felt like a distant memory, replaced by an unbearable tension. I had made my choice to confront her, but now I was left grappling with the consequences of that choice. Emily tried to reach out, attempting to engage me in conversations about our relationship, about us. I felt a twinge of guilt watching her struggle to hold on to something that no longer existed. I had once loved her fiercely, and seeing her broken hurt me more than I wanted to admit. But deep down, I knew that this was necessary. I couldn't let myself be swayed by her tears or her desperate attempts to win me back. One evening, as I sat on the couch scrolling through social media, I heard her voice from the kitchen. John, can we talk? I glanced up, bracing myself for another round of emotional manipulation. What is there left to say, Emily? She appeared in the doorway, looking worn and fragile. I just want to explain myself. I never wanted to hurt you. I was confused and I made terrible choices, but I love you and I want to make this work. I felt a surge of frustration. You say that, but love isn't enough to fix what you've done. You betrayed me in the worst way. How can I trust you again? Please just hear me out, she pleaded, her voice cracking. I've been seeing a therapist to help me understand why I did this. I want to change. I want to be a better partner. I promise it won't happen again. I looked at her, torn between the compassion I felt for her and the anger that had simmered beneath the surface since the revelation. You can't just erase what happened because you're feeling guilty. You made a choice, Emily, and you need to own it. She stepped closer, eyes pleading. I know, and I'm trying. The affair was a mistake, and I regret it every single day. I can't change the past, but I can change my future if you give me a chance. Do you even understand what you're asking? I snapped, frustration boiling over. Think saying sorry and going to therapy will make everything okay. Trust is built over time, and you demolished it in an instant. I can't just pretend this didn't happen. Her face fell, and I could see the pain in her eyes. I get that. I thought we could work through this together. You think this is about working through it? I shook my head, exasperated. You don't realize the damage you've done. I can't just jump back into a relationship without carrying the scars of your betrayal. Emily fell silent, her shoulders slumping as she looked away. The tension in the room thickened, and for a moment we both stood there grappling with the weight of our reality. I remembered happier times, moments filled with laughter and love, and it felt like a cruel joke to be standing there, staring at the remnants of what we once had. But I also recognized that I had to prioritize my own healing. I couldn't allow her to manipulate my emotions any longer. Maybe it's time for us to take a break, I said finally, my voice steady but heavy. She looked up, shock and fear washing over her face. A break, you mean? You want to separate? I need space to think, I replied, my heart pounding. This isn't something I can just brush off and pretend everything is fine. I need to figure out what I want and whether I can trust you again. Her face fell and I could see the tears well up in her eyes. John, please don't do this. I can change. I promise I'll do everything to make it right. I took a deep breath, fighting against the wave of guilt crashing over me. It's not just about you anymore. It's about me and what I need too. I need time to heal. After that conversation, the atmosphere in the house became even more strained. Emily retreated into herself, spending hours locked away in our bedroom. I felt a mix of relief and guilt. I had finally taken a stand, but it felt like a double-edged sword. I found myself leaning on my friends for support. They listened patiently, offering advice and comforting words as I navigated the emotional turmoil. I didn't want to dwell on the past, but it was hard to shake off the memories. One night, as I sat in my living room with my best friend, Mike, I opened up about everything. I just can't believe she would do something like this. I thought we had a strong marriage. Mike nodded, his expression serious. Cheating happens, man. It's a betrayal that shakes the foundation of trust. You can't just pretend it didn't happen, but you also have to decide what you want moving forward. I don't know what I want, I admitted, frustration building. Part of me wants to forgive her, but I don't know if I can ever trust her again. The thought of her with someone else makes me sick. It's okay to feel that way, he reassured me. You don't have to rush into any decisions. Give yourself time to process everything. And remember, you deserve to be with someone who respects you and your commitment. His words resonated with me, and I found solace in the support of my friends. I knew I had to take my time, not just for Emily but for myself as well. As the days turned into weeks, I found a strange sense of clarity. I began to focus on my own well-being, exploring hobbies I had neglected and reconnecting with friends. I took long walks, relishing the moments of solitude, and I even started seeing a therapist myself, trying to work through the pain. Eventually, I knew it was time to make a decision. I couldn't keep living in limbo, caught between the past and the uncertainty of the future. It was time to confront Emily one last time, to lay everything out on the table and decide where we stood. Would we try to rebuild, or was it time to say goodbye for good? The following week, I gathered my thoughts and prepared for the conversation. I didn't want to hurt her, but I also knew it was time to be honest with myself and with her. As I approached the bedroom, I felt a mix of apprehension and resolve. I was ready to face whatever came next. I stood outside the bedroom door, my heart pounding as I prepared to confront Emily one last time. The air felt charged with tension as I knocked lightly. Emily, can we talk? There was a moment of silence before I heard her soft voice from inside. Yeah, okay. Just a minute. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation ahead. When she opened the door, I was struck by how small she looked, her eyes red from crying. It was a stark reminder of the pain we had both been through. Hey, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I've been doing a lot of thinking. Me too, I replied, my voice steady but not unkind. I wanted to talk to you about what happens next. We sat on the edge of the bed, the familiar surroundings feeling foreign. I could see the uncertainty in her eyes as I gathered my thoughts. I've spent weeks processing everything, what happened, how we got here, and I've realized I need to prioritize my own healing. She nodded, her expression one of resignation. I get that. I don't want to pressure you into anything you're not ready for. I've been going to therapy, I continued, gauging her reaction. I'm trying to understand the pain and confusion I've felt since I found out about you and Mark. I need to be honest with myself about what I want. Emily looked down, her hands fidgeting in her lap. I wish I could take it back. I can't change what I did, but I am working hard to understand why I made those choices. I'm so sorry, John. I know you are, I said, my voice softening. But I can't base my decision on your sorrow alone. I need to think about my own happiness. Trust is a fragile thing, and right now I don't think I can trust you." Tears brimmed in her eyes again, and she blinked rapidly to hold them back. "What are you saying? Are you saying you want a divorce?" I hesitated, the weight of the decision heavy on my heart. "I think it's what we both need. We can't go back to how things were. I can't pretend this didn't happen, and I don't want to live in a state of constant doubt and hurt." Her face fell, and I could see the heartbreak etched in her features. "I never wanted to hurt you, John. I'm so sorry for everything." "I know," I replied, fighting against my own emotions. "But I need to let go, for my own sake and for yours too. You need to find out who you are outside of this. We both do." The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. I could feel the tears threatening to spill, but I fought them back. I had made my decision, and now it felt like a weight was being lifted, even as it broke my heart to see her like this. "Are you sure?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Once you make this decision, there's no going back." "I have to be sure," I said, my voice firm. "You've shown me that I can't rely on you for my happiness. I need to reclaim my own life, my own happiness." She nodded slowly, the tears finally spilling over as she covered her face, unable to hold back her sorrow. I wanted to reach out to comfort her, but I knew that this was a necessary step for both of us. "I'll start the paperwork," I said softly, my heart aching at the thought of what we were losing. "It's going to take time, but I believe this is what we both need to heal." "Okay," she said, her voice muffled through her hands. "If that's what you need, I'll accept it. I wish things could have been different." "So do I replied, feeling a wave of sadness wash over me. "But we can't change the past, Emily. We can only move forward." As I stood to leave the room, I felt a mix of relief and grief. I had made my decision, but saying goodbye to a relationship filled with so many memories was still painful. I turned back to look at her one last time, my heart heavy with all that had transpired. "I hope you find what you're looking for," I said softly. "We both deserve a chance to heal." With that, I walked out of the room, closing the door behind me. I felt a sense of finality, but also a flicker of hope. It was time to rebuild, to rediscover who I was without her. In the weeks that followed, I began to embrace my newfound freedom. I focused on myself, reconnecting with friends, picking up hobbies I had neglected, and finding joy in my independence. The healing process was gradual, but I was determined to move forward with my life. As for Emily, she took the news hard, but I hoped it would serve as a wake-up call. I wished her the best in finding herself and learning from her mistakes. Through the pain of betrayal, I learned valuable lessons about trust, self-worth, and the importance of choosing happiness. Life is a journey, and while this chapter closed painfully, I was excited about the paths that lay ahead. I was committed to ensuring that my next relationship would be built on honesty and respect, principles that would guide me as I moved forward into a new beginning.